All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, I'm Kim Granados with the ASIS staff, and I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar entitled Enhancing Metacognitive Awareness and Metaliteracy Skills Towards Becoming a Self-Determined Researcher. This session is sponsored by SIG-III through their Winter School initiative. Our presenter today is Dr. Brenda Van Wyck, and our moderator today is Dr. Layli Sefi, Chair of SIG-III. I'd like to ask the audience to type your questions into the question panel box at the top of your screen, and they will be answered at the end of the presentation. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be available within 24 hours and will be sent to all registrants. I will now turn this session over to Lele, who will introduce our speaker, Dr. Brenda Van Wyck.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Welcome everyone to Winter School for Enhancing Researcher Skills, SIG-III initiative. My name is Layli and I will be today's speaker moderator. We hope you find today's webinar to be an educational and thought-provoking networking opportunity. The Winter School presented so far 3 workshops, and we will present 3 webinars to train information science professionals in developing their research skills through various tools and techniques for understanding social behavior and analyzing large data sets. Today's webinar is on enhancing metacognitive awareness and metaliteracy skills towards becoming a self-determined researcher. We wish also thank ASIS, especially Kimberly Granados, a Deputy Executive Director, for providing a platform and all their great support for facilitating the Winter School. Our goal is today to promote critical thinking and collaboration in a connected world, providing a comprehensive framework to effectively participate in social media and online communities. We wish to extend a big thank you to today's speaker, Dr. Brenda Van Wyck, a senior academic in the EBIT faculty at the University of Pretoria. Dr. Brenda has been responsible for literacy teaching, postgraduate supervisor training, and postgraduate support in her current as well as previous positions. She has a passion for technology-assisted teaching and learning towards digital inclusion and cognitive social justice. Her research interests include open scholarship, metaliteracy, information, and research ethics. So without further ado, Dr. Brenda, the floor is yours. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to share some of my ideas and my thoughts with you today. So in the time that we have available, I would like to share with you some concepts around cognition, metacognition. How does this tie in with metaliteracy? And what is the concept of self-directedness when it comes to being a student and a researcher? And looking at what strategies could possibly assist us all in becoming more self-directed. So unfortunately, I cannot see who is in the meeting, but I do take it that there are quite a number of people either doing research or who are planning to do research. If you could give us a thumbs up somewhere, then that will be great. But I'm quite sure that many of you are either involved in research or planning to do so. Right. And we all know that doing research on a postgraduate level is extremely hard work. It really requires dedication. And according to my experience, it's probably one of the most time intensive and challenging problems of your entire academic career. And this actually becomes more complex when you are doing your research and connecting with your supervisor and your institution on a distance level. And that is a problem. So how do you prepare to embark on this in this project, either a research project or a postgraduate qualification. Now, my experience is that somewhere earlier in your academic career, you might have had an information literacy session somewhere, but that alone is not a guarantee for success. Bring to this also time management, writing skills that you suddenly have to learn a new language, and a way, an acumen of writing, which, if you are not used to it, can be really taxing. Um, the modality online research is not easy. It's quite a lonely experience. So, what gives us the staying power to really get your heels in there and stay till the end until you succeed? Um, there is definitely, in my experience, and maybe some of you can say in the chat box if that is your experience as well, but there is a definite, what I would call an articulation gap, coming from, say, for instance, doing research assignments on a postgraduate honors level, and then starting with a master's, and then later your PhD research. The expectations sometimes does not meet the reality, and we're going to see today how we can address that. So, just a question for you at this stage, to keep in your mind, which we will address later. Do you think that doing research is part of learning? Or do you think you've already done the learning and that it's now the time to build on your prior knowledge? Okay, now thereby hangs a tale, and let's see why. Let's see how we could look at navigating your personal journey by getting familiar with concepts such as metacognition, metaliteracy. What does it mean to be a self-determined researcher, and how do you get to be one? Okay, so we have agreed that research requires very specific skills, but it also requires a growth mindset. Okay, so you have to have an open mind. You have to accept that there's so much that you still do not know. And then ideally, a self-determined researcher will continue, have the staying power, and eventually succeed in research. I think we are all quite worried about how many potential researchers start out and then do not complete their research. It's really a worrying factor for us, and all that knowledge, that new knowledge that is lost to us. So our discussion today is underpinned by basically 3 theories. I will briefly look at the constructs of the theories. I don't want to bore you to death with heavy theory discussions, but we are going to first of all look at self-determination. Ryan and his associates in 1997 already started researching there, and there's very good empirical research as a foundation for this theory. And then, of course, in the educational psychology field, we have Flavel looking at metacognition. So that in itself is by far not a new concept. But then the work of Tom Mackey and Trudy Jacobson from SUNY University did a tremendous amount of work in researching metaliteracy and taking information literacy to a totally new level. And we are going to underpin our discussions with these 3 theories so that we can get a better understanding of these constructs, so that you can become a more focused and, more importantly, a self-aware and a motivated researcher, one with staying power. Okay, so we're going to look at these 3 constructs: self-determination, metacognition, and metaliteracy. So kicking off with the concept of self-determination, Ryan basically coined this construct, and he looked at motivation. What motivates you, and what psychological needs must be fulfilled so that you are determined to embark on this monstrous, time-consuming activity as research, and what makes you stay in that. Okay, and this is very specific needs that Ryan and his associates said that must be fulfilled. If those are not fulfilled, somewhere along the line, you will run into trouble. Now, if you do some reading on metaliteracy, metacognition, etc., you might come across something called self-direction. We're not going to, although the self-direction theory is very important when you decide you are going to embark on research. For the purposes of our discussion today, we are rather going to focus on cognition, motivation, and the behavior that guides you towards your goals within your specific environment. That is, we are also definitely going to look as a subset of self-determined learning or research. What is the function of self-regulation? And I think already you can hear some bells going. Self-regulation. Am I going to postpone my studies? Am I going to procrastinate, etc.? We all know that so well. Just explaining self-determination a little bit better, it is a meta theory. It consists of about 7 separate theories. We're not going into that tonight. What is important for tonight's discussion is that it defines the intrinsic and very extrinsic sources that motivates you, that actually makes you determined to succeed. Within this comes in the social and the cultural factors, which is a huge factor in our world today. What Ryan said was that there are 3 constructs that are very, very important. And we're going to look a little bit closer at those. The one is competence. The one is connection, or also called relatedness. And the other one is autonomy. And Ryan says that this forms motivation, and this makes that you engage in the various activities, not on a superficial level, but on a very deep, higher level thinking order that will look at performance, persistence, and creativity, everything that you will put in to creating new knowledge. So when these 3 psychological needs are hampered at any way, your research endeavor is at peril, and there is that you could feel at sometimes that you actually just want to give up. So what they distinguish is intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic would be the satisfaction of doing research. Now, just think, how many of you started your research because of the satisfaction that you have experienced? Maybe not that many. Maybe I'm wrong. But the extrinsic motivation is very much, what is it in it for me? What's in it for me? And of course, we can't argue. We do want qualifications to look at our employability. But this would be, if we look at that end goal, if that is our only motivator, then that is very extrinsic, and we might fall into pitfalls, and we might not succeed as we hoped to succeed. So what is it that we then need to look at? Let's look at those 3 constructs: competence, connection, and autonomy. Where competence is basically what you have gained, the knowledge and the experience that you have gained till today, where you have decided that you're going to embark on a research project, a master's or a PhD. So you've mastered your research competence to some level, and you've got prior knowledge that you can work on. The one that is particularly of importance in an online and a connected world is this sense of belonging, a relatedness also, as they call it. And again, if you're a remote student, it's sometimes difficult to engage. It takes a lot of courage. You must feel that you belong somewhere. And then autonomy. How much do you feel that you are in control of what you are going to do and while you are doing your research? How difficult is it to really juggle all the balls and keep all the priorities where they have to be? That is definitely not easy. More particularly so if you are a working adult or if you have family responsibilities. All those elements make your psychological needs that must be met, rather difficult, right? And many of us could potentially be left out in the cold, and more so if you are doing this online. It can be extremely isolated, and if you do not go the extra mile and reach out, your psychological needs might not be met, and your success is possibly not going to be guaranteed. One of the subconstructs of self-determination is then self-regulation. In this very busy world, online world particularly, where we live, how do you as an individual regulate and space and control what is happening in your life so that your research also gets the time that it needs? Um, the self-regulation concept is based very much on your social interactions and how that is modeled and internalized. We find, and we all have experienced this, is that on an undergraduate level, you have a lecturer or a tutor or a roster or exam, something that's cracking the whip for you, that makes you keep on the straight and narrow. That engagement suddenly falls away when you are start doing your own research. If it's not collaborative research and you're quite on your own, that can be a rather daunting experience. Okay. And there, your driver, you must decide what drives you and what regulates you to stay on this choice. Okay. So a concept that is quite familiar to you, I'm sure, is the question about cognition. That is our mental processes on how we think, how we gain our knowledge, how do we remember our knowledge, how do we judge knowledge, are we biased, how do we do higher level problem solving. That is not new to us. This concept is not new to us, but we need to think a little bit broader and see how cognition, metacognition, self-directedness, and then as a subset, self-regulation. How does this link during your experience and your journey as in doing your research? So looking at what Flavel said about this, we've looked at cognition, that is your thinking processes. Your metacognition, in a very simplistic way, can be seen as thinking about thinking, but in fact, that is far more than that. What Flavel said is that when you develop your metacognitive skills, you start thinking aloud, doing introspection, asking yourself questions, not necessarily on the field that you are researching, but about your own psychological experiences, and you reflect on yourself and how you experience things during your research. Now, I tried to do this exercise with some of my undergraduate students, and I was quite surprised to realize that they do not reflect, they do not think about what they're doing. And when I did this self-reflections journaling exercise, they thought I was stone cold crazy. And it was only later on, much later on, that they see, aha, now I understand why you're doing it. So that we don't blindly just regurgitate things that have been done before, which we will not remember that way anyway, and we will not be able to be creators of new knowledge that way. So you see metacognition in various aspects. You see it in your behavior. And if you are skilled to recognize this, you can regulate it. Say, for instance, it's Friday night and you know that you have to edit your chapter 3 and check your research methodology. And you think, hell no, life is passing me by. I'm going to do it Saturday night or Sunday night. Okay, Monday night. That procrastination is something that you as a self-determined researcher must immediately recognize and see it for the red flag it is, and control it. Okay, it could also mean something like assess what existing knowledge you have. Check it against other research. Is this definitely on point, or did I maybe misinterpret something? But then the most important thing is the emotions that goes with postgraduate studies. Who would agree with me there? If you do, just give us a thumbs up or put a yes in the chat box. Nobody really prepares us for the emotions that we are going through. Now, just if you have a look at some of the jokes that appear on social media, etc., you could see that you're most definitely not alone in experiencing these emotions. And social media even have Facebook has a group called the PhD Illusion and Reality. So this is real. This is something that everybody is struggling. And that is in essence part of what we must address within our metacognitive skills. Now, we said that on a very basic level, metacognition is thinking about our own thinking, but it's much more than that. It's a question of having that discussion with yourself. What will I do with my PhD? Do I really know all the research methods? What else do I need? And what we all experience, many of us in the world, English is not my first language. How will I cope? Never mind, even the English speaking research communities struggle with research rigor and acumen. It can in the beginning be quite a different language that you're not used to. So this is the thinking, not just about your topic, but doing introspection, having that conversation with yourself so that you can go beyond. Meta in Greek means beyond. What comes after? You now have an understanding. You now have memory. What comes after that? And this is where metacognition and metaliteracy intersect. So let's have a look. What is the link? The skills that we are talking about tonight is not merely for research. It is also relevant for learners, scholars, students, and also in your day-to-day work hereafter, your world of work, as well as your interactions on the online environment. Metaliteracy is also, in essence, a pedagogical model. It's founded within the theory of information and information literacy, but it really looks at learning. What is the praxis? How is learning happening? And remember that question that we asked, is research learning? Okay, so again, when it comes to the metacognition, we look at what happens after. What happens during and after and beyond when you are doing your research. And this also relates to productivity. Of course, it has to do with reading and writing skills. And then this brings us to our third construct, and that then is the metaliteracy, or this is a framework. And as I've said, it builds on information literacy. What Mackie said in the early days when they started doing this research was that metaliteracy is a pedagogical model that empower learners to be reflective, introspective, informed, and to be able to produce information both individually and collaboratively. So this was some of the first work by Trudy Jacobson and Tom Mackie. And this also informed the ACRL framework, the literacy framework. And there's just been in 2018, there's been additions in terms of learning theories, etc., which is fantastic. Just quickly looking at what ACRL said in 2015 about metaliteracy is that the framework draws significantly upon the concept of metaliteracy, okay, which offers a renewed vision on information literacy as an overarching set of abilities with students where students are consumers and creators of information. So metaliteracy demands a behavioral, affective, emotional, cognitive, as well as metacognitive engagement with your information ecosystem. And we're going to see how those four ideas work together. these constructs were then incorporated in the ACRL information literacy standards, but its implication is far wider. And coming back to us as researchers or as emerging researchers, how do we deal with it? Are we ready? What don't we know about the process? So meta-literacy then evolves beyond the searching of information. Now you at this level, we expect that you have basic information literacy skills. You can evaluate, you can find, you can access, you can critically look at the credibility, etc., etc. And this is good and well for traditional publishing, but research is expanding at such a level that it has also bearing on other levels as well. So the emphasis of the two domains that are not so much highlighted within the information literacy framework is the affective and the metacognitive. And I'd like to stand still with that a little bit more. But if we then look at the four domains of information literacy, we're talking about the behavioral, the cognitive, the metacognitive, and the affective, the emotion. And these are constantly in interaction with each other. So if we talk about behavior, what is it that we're talking about? It is our behavior in our research environment. What do you do? How do you engage to make sure that you will come up with knowledgeable and very good and impactful research? What is it that you can accomplish with the existing skills and competencies that you have? So that is an introspective question. The other domain is the cognitive, which is well known to us. This refers to the knowledge that we already have. When we were in our honors class, we did learn the ropes about epistemology, about research design, about theoretical and conceptual frameworks. So those elements is not unknown, and that is prior knowledge. Maybe you need to sharpen some of that, but that cognitive skills are there. How do you organize, evaluate, decide on how you're going to use those? The element that is often neglected when we start doing research, and nobody prepares you really for that in a formal way, is the affective. How is doing research changing how you feel, your emotion, your attitudes? How does it affect how you will engage? If you absolutely feel isolated out there, will you feel free to reach out and work with your fellow researchers or your supervisor for that matter? Then the very interesting one is the
Sorry,
metacognitive.
Brenda. Sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Can you please hide the notification because it's not allowing our participants see this full slide. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so sorry.
Okay. No problem. Thank you for telling me about that. So let's look at the metacognitive. This is where the self-awareness comes in and the reflection and the asking yourself about questions. So on so many levels, asking yourself questions: am I ready? Am I motivated? Can I regulate my daily activities? What is my preconceptions when I've decided to embark on doing research? Okay, so very much reflective, thinking about it. Now, all these come together and form roles that a researcher have. In any case, you have that. But a meta-literate researcher have a better understanding of these four domains: the metacognitive, the cognitive, the behavioral, and the affective. And these come to play in all the different roles that you have to play. You are the author of your own dissertation or thesis. You might be a participant in the research process. You hopefully will start publishing after you've done your research. You're collaborating. You work with your supervisor and with other researchers. So those are the roles that, if these concepts of metacognition, cognition, behavior, and affective behavior is addressed, these roles will come to you more seamlessly and easier. And that will also then reflect on your behavior, being more civic-minded, being more reflective, being open for differences, cultural differences, digital exclusion, etc. Participating better. So that you can see how these roles all come together when and if you have a far better idea of what it is that you are doing in research, where you will be able to be more informed and hopefully to more productive, etc. And this slide really unpacks some of those concepts much better. This slide is also on the Metacognitive site. I have it in the references, and feel free to go and have a look at it, because it even drills down to more information. But just briefly looking at this, when you are doing research and you're a self-determined, metacognitively aware researcher, you will be open to respect ideas and to consider other ideas, to value diverse worldviews, to collaborate more effectively, to participate and share. Feel free to share. So often we do research and we doubt ourselves so much that we don't want to share. We don't want to open ourselves to criticism. Okay, but that when you do the reflection and when you are really self-determined, you will be able be in a better position to take up these different roles. So we ask the question, when doing research, can it be seen as a further learning process? And I think that you did initially possibly think that yes, it is, but most definitely it can be seen as a learning process. Established researchers will share with you that they constantly learn new concepts, new ideas, moving away from simply quantitative, mixed method research to thinking about ethnographic research or to collaborative ethnographic research. So many more things that you can think about. So you constantly learn more elements. The more you engage on a meaningful and collaborate, those roles that we were talking about, the more learning takes place. And maybe you will agree with me, but often if you are, that was my experience, when some time ago, when I was really an emerging and a novice researcher, I started off my master's studies just thinking about the studies, not thinking about anything else. What topic am I going to address, etc. Very one-dimensional. Okay, and that is not a growth mindset. That is not ideal. So the minute that you start with this reflection and introspection, and you put yourself as a person in the middle of this journey and this process, you start being more self-aware. You know your own strengths, your own weaknesses. You know what motivates you. And you're not only looking at that extrinsic motivator of getting that piece of paper to say, I've got a master's, I've got a PhD. Okay. So you've got to create that growth mindset and realize that you are constantly learning. And your modality, if you're doing this online, it is difficult. It is certainly very difficult. Most of us, the first time that we enter this research realm, we think, okay, it's a very clear, very nearly linear process. You write your research proposal, you submit it, you develop your research question, you collect your data, you analyze your data, you draw conclusions, and voila, you write your dissertation, all done and dusted. But is that the way that it happens? Definitely not. That's not the way it happens. This is reality. You enter and it doesn't stop. it also, even if you start becoming a more experienced researcher, this is the process. So you can see why you need these skills to navigate your way to success. Okay, because it is not a linear process. It's not clear cut. Um, Somebody in the research committee might feel that your topic is too broad, that your topic has been researched too often, and that it doesn't add new knowledge. So the whole getting ethics clearance is a nightmare. It can be a nightmare. It's not that, and those are the things that you will need your staying power, and not procrastinate and not give up if you are self-aware and you have reflected on what it is. So you might at stages feel that, oh, please just let this end. But you must always motivate, get those motivators, so that your research journey is in fact not like an albatross around your neck, and that you actually fulfill those psychological needs, and that you succeed in what you are doing. And you cannot do this alone, even in an online world where you're a distant student, you cannot do that. You must rely on your supervisor. You must rely on your colleagues to do this. So we see that metacognitive researchers are very much aware of their own personal learning, and they realize that you continue. It's a lifelong learning process, where you know your strengths, where you develop your strengths, and so that you can tackle your challenges. And the ideal thing here is that you have metacognitive strategies. Now, I've plotted some here, but if you think about it and if you reflect on what we've discussed here today, you would most likely be able to add or amend some of these. Some of these strategies that you have to keep you in the tracks and keep you going and keep you rowing is think aloud. Put yourself into that. Reflect on what it is that you're doing. Reflect on your prior knowledge. Um, Check your emotions. I'm really tired tonight. Maybe I should just take time to refresh, but not procrastinate. Engage and collaborate. And here, ASIST is such a valuable organization where that can be practiced, to connect with other researchers and to soundboard where you think you are, so that by the end, that where you are coming from might be a much more enlightened world if you have these metacognitive and self-awareness interactions. Okay, one of the very important strategies is the habits of self-regulation. To me, I think that is the most important aspect, to self-regulate. Don't draw up a timetable just for putting it into your proposal. Stick to it, amend it when you need to, but don't get into that habit of making time for your studies. It is hard, that discipline is hard in the beginning, but very soon it's part of your daily life. So, we're coming to the end of our presentation today. Sorry. And we basically we used the constructs of three theories. The one is self-determination, which is a motivation, psychological framework, metacognition, which is also educational psychology, and then metaliteracy, which is a pedagogical framework underpinned by information literacy. And where these intersect, we really get the recipe for us as novice and emerging researchers to do that introspection, to create that self-awareness of what it is, where we want to go, and what do we need to do, what strategies do we need to have in place, where do we engage, what knowledge do we produce. Those are the elements, and very interestingly so, metacognition is a very important construct in both self-determination as well as metaliteracy. Okay. And what is important in conclusion is that these skills you carry over to your world of work. It is lifelong learning. And as Manda said in 2023, it is increasingly critical for everyone to assess their own meta literacy and continuously work to improve this. This will not only prevent you from falling prey to all kinds of things like disinformation, fake news, but it will also improve your hireability, your employability, and your mindset to get that growing mindset. And that is what I would like to share with you tonight. In essence, I would like to encourage you to be self aware, to reflect, to be brave, and to keep on rowing and have that end goal in mind and go for it. Don't stop, engage. You get to draw strengths from others as well. Thank you so much for your time and listening to me tonight. I will gladly take questions. There is some reading matter that you might find interesting and that also informed this presentation. And thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Brenda, for this very informative theoretical background, I would say. I myself really learned a lot about the theoretical background of how to be self-determined, how to like metacognition, and also metaliteracy. So we are open. Yeah, thank you so much. It was really great. So we are open for the questions. Please, yeah, if you have any questions, you can just type and I can ask Brenda your questions. I'm also putting our feedback form in the chat box. So please take a few times to just fill out our feedback for future. Yeah, I can see one question. Brady is asking what was the title of the Manner article from 2023. If I read.
Manner. It is in the list. If I can, may I move up to the list? There. Manner C, the importance of meta literacy for people 55 plus. And there is a link. If the handout is shared with you, you're most welcome to have a look at that as well.
Thank you.
Yes, Lele, all the handouts are in the top of each person's screen. There's a little icon, looks like a document with a paper clip. So the handouts are to be found there. And so that would have this slide as well.
Oh, thank you, Kim. Yeah, I wanted to ask, of course you will send the recording, but the handouts also, it will be good that to just have. Even I wanted for myself. That's great.
Yep. So yeah, you can go ahead and download that by clicking on the screen. It's a PDF of the entire presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So any other questions? Yeah, there is a comment. I'm just reading the comment. I enjoyed this presentation very much and would like to say thank you for sharing this information. I learned a lot and feel more empowered to move forward with doing research. Exactly the same feeling. Yeah, it was a comment from Kelaya, if I'm
Thank you so
reading.
much. Yes, it's
Yeah.
it's a difficult process, and it's so easy to say no more, but you will. In my life, with my first time that I attempted my PhD, I didn't have these metacognitive and meta-literacy skills, and I gave it up for a period of 10 years. I gave it, and I'm really, really sorry that I did that and that I didn't have that staying power. It would have meant so much. It was if you give up, it will be always something that you regret.
True, true, very true. Thank you. So I can't see any more questions. I would like to thank once again from Dr. Brenda for the great presentation and also ACES, especially Kimberly. Yeah, it was really great. Also, thank you so much for our participants who participated in today's webinar. And I would like to announce that our next two webinars will be 1st and 8th February at 11 a.m. ET. So you can also register our next two webinars. I'm also putting the link on chat box if you would like to register. So let me see. I see two more questions. No. Yes, one more. How do you? One more question. How do you encourage a self-determination and a growth mentality in your students? Brenda, there is a question.
That's a very difficult question, but a very good question. It's by poking the dragon. You really need to make students aware that it is not a one-dimensional process. It involves you as a human with feelings, with aspirations, with certain behavior, with certain knowledge. And what I do is I let them do journaling, self-reflective journaling. In the beginning, they absolutely hate it, but it's for marks and they have to do it. And but that's for undergraduate. Hopefully, on a postgraduate level, that development is more there for them to encourage and make them aware to read up on strategies that you will help. Um, Encourage them to reach out to groups who are also studying. Encourage them to make use of ASIST. ASIST has wonderful material, webinars, etc. And engage. As you engage, you learn more about yourself and your own strengths and weaknesses. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you. Thank you. There is one more comment that it mentioned. Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. I recently began to study and work remotely in order to assist my parents. And so I especially appreciated your comments concerning the challenges of remote study or work. There was a comment.
Yes, it's very, very, very important because it's so quickly and so easy to feel totally isolated and overwhelmed and then just give up. Whereas if you have those coping strategies, you might rethink giving up.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. I cannot see any more questions. So one more time, thank you very much for participants and our presenter, and also Kimberly for her support as always. Kimberly, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leila. Thank you so much, Dr. Van Wyck, for this very informative webinar. I mean, as someone who's not a researcher and probably will never be a researcher, there were takeaways for me and for lifelong learning and a growth mentality. I think. Thank you for illuminating all of that. Leila, thank you as always for moderating this session, and to SIG-III for all of their hard work and coming up with great ideas and great webinars and the Winter School. I want to remind listeners that one of many ACES member benefits is complimentary access to all of these webinars. We've got the last 3 webinars out in iConnect. If you've got some time, want to look into certain topics, they're all there for you as a member. A recording of today's webinar and a copy of the slides are going to be posted to that iConnect area by tomorrow and will be available to all ASIS members and paid registrants. Within 24 hours, the attendees who